Good morning, and we're live. And I'm sorry I'm late. I couldn't find my glasses, and God knows what that would be like. It would be like I'd be completely dependent on Yasmin. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Yasmin.
Good morning, everyone.
Oh, and I've earned my cup of coffee. It's been, Tuesday is garbage day around here, so of course there's that. And then there's Garbage Day, the live with Joan. Today I'm teaching all day. I went on a big hike. My dog, so last week my cat disappeared in the middle of the live. This week I also was running late because Abby, my dogs were waiting for her in a part of the hike. And I have to tell you that I thought to myself, this is the one time I'm going to see her first. And the next thing you know, I see her way up on a cliff off in the distance. I'm like, oh my God. And I just started yelling kindly, even though I wanted to cuss. And eventually she came. So I've had 2 delays. The dog, they had a blast. And my missing glasses, which are hugged close to my body now. So good morning. Cheers.
Lots of people jumping on.
Cool. Who?
Hi, Joyce Lee. Hi, Chris Hopton Wilson. Hi, Kristen Hedberg. Leslie Williams. Maury Manning.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. And Kristen, I have a friend staying here who's also a Paralandra freak. So we've been geeking out over plant talk and yeah, you can imagine. So anyway, good morning. Who all is here?
Let's see who else. Robin Leslie. Hi from Seattle. Hi,
Good morning,
Robin.
Robin.
Loretta
Ayat.
is
Good
here.
morning.
For her.
I'll be seeing her at 11.
Hi from Carnation, Washington. Heidi's coming from.
Heidi's,
Tuning in.
good morning, Heidi. She lives near where I used to live. We met in yoga. She went on a dolphin trip, and now she's in AC level 1. All these years later.
Wow, that's incredible. All these stories, you always undig all these stories. It's amazing.
You know what? I think it's important to always keep your memory sharp, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you have got a sharp memory, I must say.
Thank you. I work at it.
Nami, jump rope. Does jump rope got anything to do with it?
Jump rope, and I hula hoop, and now I've got a very large hula hoop. Let's see, and I ride. Actually, yesterday I rode 2 horses and then took a yoga class, and I could barely hike those hills today. I'm like, wow. So, anyway.
We've got Nami from Dallas. Hi.
Hi, Nami. She's also in AC level 1.
Oh, amazing. Shannon's here, of course. Hi, Shannon. Afton's here. Bonnie's here. Bonnie Bernard. Hi from Massachusetts.
Good morning, everyone. And Nami, I think Nami does rehab with dogs and I think is a vet tech. So what we're going to talk about today with the EFT is also something that I can imagine you would employ in your work, especially when you see dogs or animals that are in pain that can't take that next step, even though maybe it's muscle memory. We'll talk all about it in a minute. But anyway, anyone else here? Any comments? I saw that Kristen made a comment. I can't.
Kristen says what? I don't know if she's commenting to my comment saying that
No,
the
Paralandra. Yeah.
Awesome. I've been reading Behaving as If it just flipped.
My favorite book, Behaving as If the God in All Life Matters. Yes. Does she like it?
She says she's loving it.
the best book in the world. Okay, you can see the drama in the background here.
Penelope. Francois, hello from New Brunswick, Canada.
Good
Francois,
morning.
I can't pronounce your name. Francois Esteve Maureen. Maybe,
Maureen.
I think she's French.
Oui.
Oui. Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Ming, yay for EFT.
Yay.
Nami says, yes, John, thank you. Very excited to learn. Afton says EFT equals magic.
Yeah, and Afton, tell them how you really feel, or how you really felt at one point. And the cat just jumped from there to the top of the bookcase, so the dog is, it's now the dog's interested in me. Because it's kind of boring being tortured by a cat you can't get to. Anyway. Anyone else?
Afton says, I hated it. And lots of LOL.
Yeah.
Now I don't.
I know. It's so funny, too, because people in the big program have to take that class twice, and then they get it at the intensive. And
Right.
so there's so many people that are disgruntled the first round, and we're about to start that in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks? In less than 2 weeks. On the 11th, I think. Whatever that Thursday is. Not this Thursday, but
November
next
the
Thursday.
11th.
Yeah. In a week and a half. Anyway, people are always like halfway through are like, and they, I can tell they don't like it, but then, and it's partly because it seems like there's so many pieces, but once you put the pieces together, it flows and it's magical, and we'll talk more about that. I see one more big comment coming in. Any?
Yeah, Shannon also says, I now love EFT too. And Francois says, I have a question for you, Joan. What do you do when you receive a communication from an animal that there is a bad energy, like an entity that is stuck in the house? How do you tell that to the person who wanted a reading?
Well, today we're going to really focus on EFT, and I'm happy to answer. We'll do another Q&A. I'll answer it briefly, but we had fun with the Ask Joan Anything in here, so I'm willing to do that in a few weeks. But today we're super focused on EFT. That said, I would just tell the person that there might be an energy in the house. I've told people that I feel like there's mold in their house. I feel like I've told people that there are energies in their house, and that it could be someone they know or not, and I've always had people that I know that could clear that, and so I send them on to the next person, the person that could clear that, whether it's there's a story in my first book. It was actually mold, and the people moved out of their home, but someone else, other people, I've definitely you have to tell the truth, but you have to maybe be careful about how, just be mindful of how you say it, because an entity could even be energy. It doesn't have to be an evil force, and so that's where I'd love to break this down way further in an Ask Joan, for sure, because I've dealt with this a lot, and it's important to tell the truth, but also find your gentle words in case you're stepping on somebody's beliefs. Okay, so for those that are new to me, my name is Joan Ranquet. I'm an animal communicator, author, speaker, and founder of Communication with All Life University. And the school is built for people to learn animal communication or become an animal communicator, to learn energy healing or become an energy healer. And this March, we start with the nature and wildlife part of the school. So that's not all. There's also the sister school, Jill and Joan Acupressure. We've got tons of amazing classes. Probably at this time next year, we'll have some more body work with Rhonda. We've got subtle energies coming with Marie Christine. So we have so many little things you could do, or one big giant thing you could do, and a bunch in between. How about that? So that's the school. I just explained it so well, didn't I? Yasmin's like, Joan, maybe you could break that down a little. But anyway, so, and I'll talk more about the energy part later on, because that's what we're here to do, is to talk about energy. And actually that entity question might be a good question for next week. We could, if you join us again, Francoise, we'll dig deeper and, go into that a bit. But today, go ahead.
She says thank you very much. She said thanks a lot, so that answer did help her.
Yeah, I don't ever like something to get left out. And I just, So today, we're going to focus on EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique, or tapping. And I want to, first of all, I'd love to know how many people here know what it is, or don't know what it is, or want to know, or have tried it. I'd just love to get people's feedback on EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique, or tapping. On your mark, get set, go.
Yeah, I'm putting it in the chat.
Yeah, because I'll come back through. I have to teach all day today. I teach 11 and 5, and I've got stuff in between, but probably around 8:30, after I've picked up all the horse poop and all is done, I usually come in and peek at the notes for today, unless I get a break at some point. But I probably won't answer until tonight, but that gives people in different time zones a chance to type in. So I will answer later if you're watching this later. What is your experience with EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique, tapping?
So T says, I've been doing EFT for years. Francois also says, I do practice EFT. Bonnie Bernard says, I love it. Maury Manning says, no, but don't understand it.
Okay.
Interesting. Kristen says, know it, have done it, only like how Joan does it.
Thank you.
Vish Vusawan says, tried EFT and was amazing. How Rex, my puppy, calms down instantly.
Vish is in the AC level 1 also.
Nami says that I've heard it before. Shannon says she loves it. So powerful, and use it more and more.
So.
And she says Dawn's version is the best.
Thank you. I've been doing it a long time. I've seen a lot of variations on it. I will talk about it and my introduction to it, and then we'll do some tapping. So, first and foremost, what is it? EFT is Emotional Freedom Technique. I like to refer to it as an energetic body work, because it is energy healing, and yet it's body work. And one of the things I think most important to mention about animals is that if they aren't freaked out by touch, being able to touch them and ground them is one of the most important things we can do. So I love anything that actually does touch them. Like I love T-touch. I love acupressure, which is why I'm so happy to be doing all these acupressure courses with Dr. Jill. I was certified in that years ago, before I did EFT. And then I let the certification go, but I was with Jill, and I have worked really hard on these courses, and it's so funny because EFT brought me back to acupressure in a way, and then Jill and Joan have deepened the acupressure for me and my knowledge of it, that brings me to a real deeper understanding of what each of these points mean. So, that said, what is it? So, it's series of tapping on acupressure points. Now, each acupressure point is connected to a meridian, and that meridian is connected to an organ, and that organ is connected to an emotion. And let's imagine, for those that don't know anything about it or understand, what is a meridian? Well, a meridian, if you think of the body, the meridians are like a map. It's a highway, if you will, and a certain meridian will govern over a certain organ system. So let's say, for example, the lung meridian. The lung is associated with grief, and it's also associated with lung problems, right? Any lung issues, and it's associated with the skin. So when we look at even the EFT tapping, there are some points right here with the kidney 27. On smaller animals, you're automatically hitting lung 1. So you could really be addressing grief in that way, and I've gotten way ahead of myself. But the point is that the meridians govern these organ systems, and the organs are associated with an emotion. And the beauty, so it actually came out of something called EMDR, which is a technique that really turns back on your sort of bilateral ability. A lot of times the fight or flight will freeze, literally fight, flight, or fright, freeze, will freeze in our body. And what EMDR does is it brings back the ability to take the trauma out. You might still have the memory, but you won't be as triggered. And EMDR is very successful, but you have to be a licensed psychologist to be able to do it. And a lot of it's like eye movement. So you're doing this thing and telling a bad story, and you're going into the right and left hemisphere. So that's great, but how do you get maybe we could get a dog to do that by taking a ball and being like, you will watch the ball. But really, it's a difficult thing. I know some other bilateral tapping, patting sort of things that can help, but not quite like EFT. So with EFT, it like EMDR, will take the trigger out. You still have the memory, but you aren't as triggered. And it's so huge to be able to watch an animal make a different choice when you know that they've been traumatized, or you know that they've traumatized you because of the choices they've made in the past, like going after the neighbor's dogs, things like that. And so I started using it as, well, first and foremost, I was a victim of a crime, and I couldn't go to sleep. So I started, I had to testify. And in when you're a victim, you can't go get hypnotized because the lawyers think that you're going to lose your ability to testify. So I needed something that wouldn't take away from the memory. I wasn't remaking some story like you might in hypnotherapy, which I love hypnotherapy, nothing against it. So I couldn't make up a new story. I had to stick to the same story, but I couldn't be triggered by it, and I needed sleep. And so I was introduced to EFT, and I fell asleep. I was able to go to sleep. And from there, I started thinking about it. When I'd go to these sessions, I would think, okay, this might help. I didn't even think to tap on animals yet, right? Like I thought this might really help the animals, the people. Like at the time I lived in Colorado, and for whatever reason I had 10 million clients that were empty nesters, right? Their kids had gone off to college. They decided to go get a horse. They got a young horse because they thought they had a horse as a kid and they didn't want a horse with any baggage. They had a young horse. They got on the horse. They got bucked off. They broke their collarbone. I mean, I can't even tell you, for whatever reason, at that minute in my life, I had a lot of aggressive dog clients and a lot of women that were afraid to get back on their horse. and they were in their 50s and they still wanted to ride, and it broke their heart that they had waited this lifetime to get back on a horse and that this failure happened. So, and injury and fear and what have you. So I started tapping on the client, not the animal yet. I started tapping on the human, and the next thing you know, they would get back on their horse. And another example, like with aggressive dogs, was I wasn't tapping on the dogs yet, but I was tapping on the person for what they would go through if they had an aggressive dog. So say, for example, the minute you walk out your front door, if you lived in Los Angeles, in Hancock Park, and you walked out with your boxer, I mean, this was one of my first tapping clients, walks out with her boxer. The boxer had been attacked by a dog weeks before, and now she was on the alert and starting to lunge. And what was that doing to the person? That was making her stiffen, tighten the leash, breathe differently, so that no matter what, she was almost setting up, just by seeing another animal, breathing differently, tightening the leash, freezing up. And therefore, it was hard to say who was triggering who, the person or the dog. So if I could clear it out of the person and get them to be relaxed when they went outside, that started to shift for her, and therefore she had more, and I use this word in both my books, emotional leadership over the dog to be able to navigate the streets without having an incident. That became huge. And so wasn't until 2004 that I decided to tap on a horse. And the horse, so this trainer friend of mine called, and before I go any further, does anyone have any questions or comments?
Not really. I mean, I think everybody is just absorbed and listening.
Okay. But I want to point out something, and I'll tell the story. Here, I see something I can't read.
Cassandra says she just typed it in now. How can we get an animal to volunteer to be used in case studies for this?
Oh, trust me. Once you put the word out, you'll be fine. The best thing to do is get your animal communication case studies first, and you'll have 1 million animals lined up. That's what I would recommend. Because then once you get your 65 animal communication case studies, you can start charging for that, and everybody's got a problem that's coming to you. So, not everybody, but yeah. Okay, so anyway, going back to, I want to go back to this idea of the dog walking out of the house and the woman tensing, and then the breakdown of that. So in animal communication, you can really break down for the human what goes on in that dog's mind, step by step by step, right? I mean, I love doing that. I love doing that, whether it's a horse show, a dog show, agility trial. You can find out exactly, almost breath by breath. There was a woman who had a dog that had seizures, and I was able to back up 10 minutes before the seizure and help her to understand, and she was able to stop the seizures. And that's just animal communication, right? Like, what does that dog feel, experience, going into medical intuition? What does that dog experience before the seizure? And then the woman could see that the dog was about to have the seizure, do something different, and be able to carry on, and the dog didn't have any seizures. And one of the things we did was tapping. She took the Energy Healing for Animals, probably the first year I did it, in 2014, when I did it as a big 12-week class. So, that's where animal communication comes in very handy, I might add. So, what we're looking at with the woman walking out the door and the woman catching the seizures and the woman falling off the horse and wanting to get back on, in all three of those cases, we're looking at an element, we'll talk more about this next week, of fear, of trauma, of being triggered maybe by something past in their past. We're looking at fight, flight, fright, or freeze. And the only way to start to shift a pattern, whether it's a behavioral pattern or an illness, is to get to a level of peace. Relaxation is at the base of any shift. So, and we'll talk more about relaxation in terms of peace next week. But what I like to say is that what that woman walking out the door with her boxer on the street, very busy street, early in the morning, she was an agent or something in Hollywood, so, you know, she has to go to work early and everybody's out walking their dog that minute. She was able to walk out with a level of peace, relaxation, ease. And so even though we can remember something, we want to get to peace. And in order to make a different choice, right? So that's one of the most important. That's, I think, what I love the most about the EFT is that it it just, even if people are like, well, I don't know if I feel any different. Well, I feel relaxed. Okay, you know, that's step one. And people don't understand the value of that. And so, anyway, I'm digressing. But I could go there. They want a pill. But anyway, I'm not going there. So, the thing with the EFT, so the first time I tapped on an animal was a horse named Shakespeare. And I've told the story many times. So I had a horse trainer, and he had another client who had talked to her horses before. Her name was Karen. My horse trainer's name was Chris. Still is Chris. I mean, he's not my horse trainer, but he's still alive. So is Karen, but Shakespeare's not. Anyway, this was 2004, and Shakespeare. So Chris calls me. It's on a Tuesday. I used to be booked to the gills from 11 to 5 talking to animals. I just walked in. I'd just seen Chris. I'd been riding with him that morning. And I walk in the door, and he's calling me. I'm on my home phone, and I'm thinking, I've got clients, I can't deal with it. He's calling my cell phone, I can't deal with it. He's calling my office line, I can't deal with it. And like all three phones are practically ringing at once. So finally I think, this must be bad. So I pick up, and he said, you've got to come back out to the showgrounds. And at the time I lived in Florida, and there are big horse shows all winter in Wellington, and that's near where I kept my horse. And I was like, I can't. I have to work. And he's like, I said, I can do it on the phone. I have a break in a little while. I'll check in with whatever you need. And he's like, no, it's Shakespeare. And Shakespeare was a huge, gorgeous, gorgeous warm blood, almost black. And apparently he was going after ponies in the show ring. Well, I thought, well, that's bad, but, you know, what do you do? And he's like begging me. And if you knew Chris, Shannon remembers Chris, he's not a beggar. He's pretty confident. And so I can't, you know, I shifted clients around, drove out to Wellington, got there, and I'd never seen anything like it. Here's this huge horse, and if you've ever seen a horse going after something with their teeth, I mean, it was like a dinosaur, right? Like, you could really see that we hadn't evolved much. I mean, these teeth going after ponies and little girls. I mean, these little girls were so traumatized and scared. I hope that they've grown up to tap, because they're probably about 25 now. And I mean, it was terrifying. He was going after these ponies, and so I thought, well, we'll go talk to him. I wasn't even thinking about EFT. We'll communicate with him, and let's see what's going on. And then it hit me, like, I could tap on Karen, the owner, but it was Chris riding at that point, and Chris is the most fearless rider I've ever seen, and he could not control it. So I thought, let's duck out into a place where nobody. I said, you guys, I'm going to do something really weird, so let's go off into a corner. And so we found a little barn aisle where nobody was, and I did a communication with Shakespeare, and he told me that he had, when he was weaned, which is being taken away from his mother, he was left into a paddock with ponies, and he was teeny at the time, and it felt like he was weaned really young. So he was really he was a very sweet guy. So this was shocking. He was almost needy, right? And these ponies just beat the crap out of him. And so he forever hated ponies, and he got bigger and bigger and bigger. And he knew the difference he didn't know the difference between him and the ponies in the beginning, but eventually he did. So when he saw ponies, he was uber aggressive. So the next thing you know, I just thought, first I thought I would tap on Karen and Chris, and then I thought, no, I'm going to tap on Shakespeare. And I just because I knew acupressure, I thought of the same points, right? Where's that bladder one? Where's that, right? So I knew where it was. And on horses, a lot of times I just would tap here because it makes their eye do this, and they start to relax, their eyeball starts to relax, especially spooky horses. So I knew that this was part of the sequence. And then I just made it up, and I knew where K27 was on the horse. So I was able to do the whole series that I had learned and that I was doing now with humans on the horse. We took him out, and after we were done with the tapping, we took him out, so we made peace at the end of the story. So you're telling the whole story of what happened, and it's not like hypnotherapy where you're really making up a whole new ending, but you're kind of creating a perfect world, and it doesn't take away from what has happened. So we made it up that, he was fine with ponies. I love ponies. So we went out, and he still was kind of glaring at ponies. You could see the white of his eyes, and he wasn't great, but he wasn't terrible. They made it through the horse show. The next month, he was in a pony moved across the barn aisle from him, and eventually he retired in paddocks and became best friends with the pony. So that was one tapping that had miraculous results. Now, it doesn't mean that it's always going to be one tapping. Sometimes, it takes a long time to get neurotic. It might take a while to undo it, right? So we have things that are, sometimes it doesn't happen as immediately. Sometimes it takes a series of things a series of tapping. And going back to Cassandra, one of the ways that you easily will get the tapping clients for your case studies in the big program is because I allow for like 3 on one issue. So a lot of times you'll do more than one tapping round. So that's basically my history with tapping. I haven't looked back. I remember in 2000, I got the book deal with Sounds True. It took me 4 drafts, 3 editors, 2 boyfriends to complete it. So it didn't come out when I got the deal. I got the deal, I think, in 2010. It didn't come out in 2015. But I started looking for who's the expert EFT person that I could interview to be able to talk to them. And I had done a lot. And all of a sudden I realized in the first draft of the book, there is no expert animal EFT person. That's like, I'm going to give it my best. And so for myself, I made my own case studies. I did 100 free tappings, maybe 200. Every time I talked to an animal communication client, if they paid for a session, I had them, obviously they paid for a session. If they did a session with me and it was something, I offered 3 tappings. So I did 3 tappings. Some of them I didn't have to do 3. 1 or 2 people ended up joining the big program. One gal who could not get on her horse, that was something, had fear around the herd, and she'd done a lot of groundwork. She graduated about 5 years ago. So it really was a remarkable journey for me in 2010 to just be like, hey, why don't I just become the expert on this? And now I'm working on a book. I haven't gotten the book deal yet, but I'll just everybody, let's fingers crossed. But I have so many situations it's been applied with, and then there goes Queen Latifah torturing Penelope. And so there's so many ways that I've used this. I've used it on people. I've used it on kids. I've used it with, I don't know if you remember that shooting in Las Vegas. Well, there were a whole bunch of people who, from Santa Clarita, where I live, that had gone to that concert. And one of them couldn't find her boyfriend the whole time. He was out helping people, so she was glad he was helping people, but she also felt abandoned. I mean, I did a lot of tapping with her. Her mother told me after I tapped with her that she was almost more confident after the tapping than she'd ever been before the tapping. And she ended up like telling that boyfriend, they had a kid together. I mean, he married her pretty quickly after the rounds of tapping. So, I have result after result after result based on some of the stuff I did. I worked with people in the international horse shows. I was kind of a secret weapon with some FEI level dressage riders. So I've traveled, flown around, and done a lot of tapping. And woken up in the middle of the night to tap on horses at the international horse shows on the U.S. team. So at the World Cup. So I've done a lot. I've tapped with, recently with horses trying to make it for the U.S. team in 3-day eventing. So agility dogs, a lot of things. Any questions, comments, observations?
Let's see. Shannon says that she uses it all the time with her horses, and now the farrier asks me to do the tapping thing I do that keeps him calm.
That's cool.
Teaming says awesome.
Yeah.
Just a note for Cassandra, she was asking if she, not about her tapping, but she did, we often mention that Joan's students need case studies and are looking for volunteers or animals to work with. So Cassandra was reaching out because of this. So I sent her the address in the chat to sessions@joanranquet.com if anybody else is interested in helping Joan's students complete their case studies.
Yeah, and we can all help each other.
And then Heidi says, is the Donna Eden tapping technique good also?
Is it EFT? I mean, I imagine it is. The person to answer that for us is Marie Christine. Our Marie Christine taught with Donna Eden for like 6 years. So we'll ask her, and I'm sure it's the same. She also did the ear thing. I mean, I know a few of the other... At about 2006, 2007, and I went through several courses. I've gone through many courses. There was a whole abridged version where you just tapped on the side of your ear. And these are all points that are associated with addiction. If you've ever had an addiction to anything, a lot of times in the old days, they would put a little bead in your ear and you'd rub it when you had a craving for something like cigarettes or food or alcohol so, I mean, I know she does stuff with this tapping, and I think it's pretty great, but I'm old school. I like the plain old points. I've taken the spleen point out just because if you were to grab around on a horse that's flighty, you could freak them out, or a dog that's bitey, you could get bitten. So that's it.
I just wanted to give you a time check. It's coming up to 15 minutes before 11 your time.
Okay.
10:45, and do some tapping, right?
Yes. So real quick, I want to do some tapping, and I teach at 11. So we're going to have to chop. What I would love is if you have a sense You know, I have some things coming up that we're going to be working on in January, an event, and it's really based on. I really listened to everybody when we did the master class for energy healing, and I know people really talked about global healing for animals, and I know that one of the feelings that we get is overwhelm, and I'm happy to we could just do a round on overwhelm. But what I would love to do is to hear from you if you have any feelings that come to mind. Like, I know yesterday was World Vegan Day, but I didn't post in time, and me and my social media team didn't organize that. So, like, I look at Afton, who's out there, a true soldier. Like, what are some of the feelings you have around even just trying to get people to understand why go vegan? And anyway, I'd love to hear from you what your thoughts are, what your feelings, not your thoughts, what your feelings are when you think about, like, I'm going to heal the world. Oh my God, I can't. I thought that's what we could work on today. And that's going to be an upcoming theme, if you will. Is there another comment, big comment there, Yasmin?
Shannon says that I like yours best for working with animals because of the awesome scripts you did to guide it. And I was EFT human certified years ago.
Yeah, so I'll talk a moment about that. What we do in the Energy Healing for Animals class is we take specific issues. Like, first of all, we do scalar in it also, and I'll talk about that. There's the Energy Healing for Animals Fundamentals that's connected to it. That's a 12-week home study with a lot of, you'll see there's tapping videos, there's a lot of stuff in there. Plus there's a bonus of the EFT digital class and the scalar digital class. We also have in there, in that class, it's 10 weeks live with me, and I still teach that class. We take apart, we do a couple weeks of scalar, so we work with around, like diseases and issues like that, scalar wave, and I'll talk at length about that next week. But we do the EFT tapping for behavioral issues for the human and the animal, fear, that diagnosis. So when a person gets that diagnosis and they can't even function, and then what that's doing for the hope of the animal, and then the diagnosis from the animal's perspective, and trauma. So we've got several scripts in there that we work with, so people get an idea of how to help their clients or how to help themselves. Like, sometimes we have a diagnosis that actually leads to behavioral issue. Like, for example, let's say a dog has a spinal issue and then it's incontinent. So you could do the class just for yourself and work through all the issues you're dealing with, just because each one of those scripts applies. And we work a bit on fear in the beginning because I'm a real believer. Well, we work on ourselves because I'm a real believer that if you're going to help someone else, taking the triggers out of all of these things for yourself is one of the first steps to being able to help someone else. Like, you don't want to get into the middle of a script and be guiding someone through something and then all of a sudden realizing, oh my God, I had this situation too, and then not be able to complete, right? Like, so we really work on ourselves while we're learning the breadth of this work. And I've got all these prompts, all these questions that you ask. So it's a whole thing. Anyway, and if you are interested in the class, it starts on the 11th. It's Thursday. There's an 11 a.m. and a 5 p.m. We only have a few spots because it's full with a lot of our present students in the big program. But and then we have, what do we have? Yeah, that's it. We do have a few spots. So, and Shannon will help you. Anyway, so what are people typing in about their feelings about this?
Let's see. So Francois says, she commented again to say that her biggest concern right now, there are a few comments, I'll read them all to you. My biggest concern right now is my stress around the mandate vaccines. I don't feel good about the vaccine, but I'm stressed that everyone wants me to get vaxxed. I think I'm not the only one feeling that stress. That's one comment. Hades says, I feel like I need to overcome my own issues before I can be effective helping anything or anyone else. This leaves me feeling anxious, insecure, and incapable. Vish says, Joan, I feel that your energy healing class next week would be very beneficial in my current situation right now. Would you advise that I can join while I'm doing the animal communication course, or would it...
Of course, Ellie is calling right now. I would think...
Shannon?
I would talk to Shannon
Go
about
ahead.
that because, yeah, just get on the phone with Shannon because I think there's two things. There's one, what's going on for you, and two, what your goals are down the road. So that would be where I'd want to look at that. I mean, Cassandra, for example, took energy healing and then joined the big program, so she won't take it again for a while. But she did it first, and some people do it while they're doing this. So I think it just depends. And Shannon can help you decide what... There's more homework in the energy healing for animals, but we have huge breaks, right? We've got Thanksgiving week, and we've got many weeks off around Christmas to get caught up with all the scripts. And I'm always grateful for all the breaks that we have for that, because if you take it in the spring, there's only 4th of July. So, but you have the rest of your life to finish the scripts. It's worth it though. Unless you're in the big program, then you're on the clock. Anyway, but your partner is likely somebody that would be in the big program, so it'd behoove them to complete. All right. Anybody else about the...
Let's see. Shannon said it says it's so amazing to remove my own trigger so that I could be a better animal communicator and energy healer for my clients. It's magical and transformative for the person and the animal.
Are there any comments about the healing? Just because we've got 9 minutes.
Yeah. Kristen says fear about hearing bad things happening to animals and not being able to get them out of my head, and therefore not being helpful.
Okay. I'm like, okay. Like that's... I don't mean that to be cheerful, Kristen. Wow, great.
Any of them again for you?
No, I've got a pretty good idea. And we'll just make it... This will be the most simple round. So I want everybody to take a moment, and it's going to be a quickie round, and we can do more. There might have to be a bonus round at some point. But for the minute... Take a moment and think about the idea that, like, I want to step out and heal the planet, and yet I've got this thing that's, And I want you to really conjure up almost your debilitation with it. I don't know what, paralyzing fear, if you will. And so the first part is that you're going to tap on the karate chop, and then we're going to go through these points. And so what you're going to do is you're going to follow me physically and repeat after me. So even though I want to heal the world, and you can do your, I want to hear you, Yasmin. So even though I want to hear the world, even though I want to heal the world, and I have so many things I could do. I have so much love for this planet. But I'm afraid it will eat me alive with the bad things. And I love and accept myself.
And I love and accept myself.
Even though I want to help so much.
Even though I want to help so much.
I get so overwhelmed with how much there is to do.
I get so overwhelmed with how much there is to do.
And I get debilitated.
And I get debilitated.
And I get paralyzed.
And I get paralyzed.
And I don't do anything.
And I don't do anything.
And I just completely shut down.
And I just completely shut down.
And I love and accept myself.
And I love and accept myself.
Even though I want to help.
Even though I want to help.
I am so afraid of what I'm going to see and hear.
I'm so afraid of what I'm going to see and hear.
And I honor the choices I'm making.
And I honor the choices I'm making.
Tapping through the points. I get so scared.
I get so scared.
So afraid I'm going to hear something terrible.
So afraid I'm going to hear something terrible.
So afraid.
So afraid.
I am so afraid.
I'm so afraid.
And I'm afraid of how sad I'm going to feel.
And I'm afraid of how sad I'm going to feel.
Like even in the shelters.
Like even in the shelters.
Just how sad those animals are.
Just how sad those animals are.
Every one of them has a story.
Every one of them has a story.
And it's so sad.
And it's so sad.
I am so sad.
I'm so sad.
I am so sad.
I'm so sad.
I am so sad.
So sad.
And I get so mad at humans.
And then I get so mad at humans.
They make me nuts.
They make me nuts.
Consuming animals.
Consuming animals.
Being wasteful.
Being wasteful.
Just throwing animals away.
Just throwing animals away.
It's too much.
It's too much.
I get so freaked out.
I get so freaked out.
So angry.
So angry.
I'm afraid I can't control myself.
I'm afraid I can't control myself.
But the truth is that isn't going to help.
But the truth is, it's not going to help.
I have to find a way to forgive other people.
I have to find a way to forgive other people.
Fundamentally, I believe people are good.
Fundamentally, I believe people are good.
They just don't know any better.
They just don't know any better.
I forgive them.
I forgive them.
And I forgive myself.
And I forgive myself.
I forgive them for not knowing any better.
I forgive them for not knowing better.
And I forgive myself for not doing more.
And I forgive myself for not doing.
And I'm releasing my fears.
And I'm releasing my fears.
I'm releasing my anger.
I'm releasing my anger.
I'm releasing my sadness.
I'm releasing my sadness.
I'm going in to help.
I'm going in to help.
I'm rolling up my sleeves.
I'm rolling up my sleeves.
And I hereby make a vow.
And I hereby make a vow.
I'm here to help animals.
I'm here to help animals.
And humans.
And humans.
And I'm a peaceful warrior.
And I'm a peaceful warrior.
My biggest weapon is love.
My biggest weapon is love.
And I will carry that out into the world.
And I'll carry that out into the world.
And help as many animals and humans as I can.
And help as many animals and humans as I can.
I can do this.
I can do this.
And take a deep breath. I have 2 minutes to get to class. So please, I'll look at it later. I promise I'll sneak a peek on my lunch break. Let me know if that released anything for you. And thank you. This was really, really fun. I loved it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thanks, John. Everyone.
Yeah. All right. Everybody in class, I have 1 minute. Sorry I'm late. I have to turn that dang dryer off. It drove me insane. Okay, bye.